Since we already talked about the optimal protein intake, we also need to talk about the optimal fat intake. Fortunately, this is a lot simpler. In order to maintain your general health and fitness, you only need around 0.3 grams per pound of fat-free mass per day. Here, fat-free mass is everything in your body that isn't fat, so muscle, water, and bone. Of course, you probably won't be able to figure out your fat-free mass unless you have a specialist or personal trainer measure your body fat percentage. So to help you out, let me give you an easier rule of thumb. 0.3 grams per pound of fat-free mass per day translate to roughly 15 to 20% of daily calories for most people. This is a target value that you should not undercut both when dieting to lose fat and when dieting to build muscle. That means at least a fifth of your total calories should come from dietary fat. But as you know from the last section, what type of fat you eat is also important. You want to somewhat limit your saturated fat intake, avoid artificial trans fats, and favor monounsaturated and polyunsaturated fats. This approach is ideal for both health and fitness. I recommend you get the majority of your dietary fat from monounsaturated fats and that you keep your saturated fat intake at or below 10% of daily calories. We will talk about which foods are perfect for this in more detail in the lesson on fat sources, so be sure to listen to that one carefully. Now, there is one more case we need to talk about where you want to further increase your unsaturated fat intake above 15 to 20%, and that's when you're bulking. Bulking is the term used for going into calorie surplus to ensure optimal muscle growth. Skinny people looking to put on size often have a hard time with this. Let me give you an example to illustrate this. Imagine you need to eat 3,000 calories to gain weight, but you've already reached your macronutrient needs at 2,000 calories. Then you have a choice to make. You can either eat more protein, more carbs, more fat, or a combination of the three. In many cases, eating more fat is a good idea because of a few reasons. First of all, fats, at least the good kind, are very healthy. In fact, monounsaturated fats are some of the healthiest calories that you can consume. This includes olive and canola oils, avocados, natural nut butters, and many raw nuts, such as peanuts and almonds. You can also eat certain healthy saturated fats like coconut oil or grass-fed animal products. The next benefit is taste. Dietary fat makes pretty much any food taste better, and almost no one will complain when you add more fats to their diet. The same cannot be said for carbs, by the way. The third benefit is probably the most important for people who have a hard time gaining weight. It's calorie density. Proteins and carbs have 4 calories per gram, and fat has 9 calories per gram. Like I said before, that's more than twice as much. For example, a tablespoon of olive oil has more calories than an entire apple. So if you're already full but still need more calories to meet your daily calorie intake, extra fat is going to be a lot easier to consume. Lastly, most fats and healthy oils are fairly cheap, which means they won't kill your budget every time you go to the supermarket. Taken together, these points add to the power of fats as your default extra calories. Keep in mind that in some cases, carbs can also take on this role, but I will talk about this in more detail later in the course.